Hi everyone, my name is Scott, also known as Cineram. Welcome back to the Movie Reviewers 100. This is a collaboration channel where we review movies with a different theme every week. The themes run from Friday of one week through Thursday of the following week, and seeing as how today is Thursday, my day, I am wrapping up this week's theme, which is haven't seen it week. Basically, the object is to pick a movie that you haven't seen and review it, and that was the task set forth for each of us. We plan these themes, a few months in advance. As a matter of fact, we've got enough themes probably to last us all the way into next year. When I spotted this one, I thought, gee, what can I do? Because there's so many to choose from. I don't really know where to even begin. I could take a look at a movie that just came out in the theaters or just came out on video, or maybe something that's been out for a long time that I haven't gotten around to seeing for one reason or another. But then something occurred to me. I'm on here every week, just like the other guys, talking about films, most of which I like and want to encourage other people to see. Some of which I don't like, but for the most part I try and stick to the ones that I think are really good and other people would like. But, of course, since this is a collaboration channel, I'm not the only one doing this. There's 6 other guys on this channel, one for each day of the week. Each of them is talking about movies, many of which I haven't seen myself. For example, recently we did Alfred Hitchcock Week, and there are at least 3 Alfred Hitchcock movies talked about by some of the guys that I haven't seen yet. So I thought for this week, what better use of my video than to go through the past videos that we've done, that the other guys have done, and look at the films that they've recommended and pick one from each of them, which is what I've done here. As I said, there's 6 guys, and this is something, we're all recommending films, but this is something that I regularly do. I'm quick to talk about movies that I like or that interest me. When I'm seeking out something that I haven't seen before, it's usually because it has some attribute that I find appealing. But I'm always recommending movies, and I'm hopeful that other people will take my recommendations. I got a message a couple months ago from a guy who watched my Russell Crowe video on The Insider and said, hey, I really liked that movie, it was great. I'm like, that's terrific. But it's a rare occasion when I actually take the recommendation of one of the other guys on the channel. So I wanted to do that this week, and I picked a few films from those guys by going back through and looking at the films they reviewed. Let's start with Dino. Dino does the Wednesday reviews, the day right before mine. We'll work our way back through the beginning of the theme week, which is on Friday. His channel name is Dino Last, and the film of his that he reviewed that I picked was The Raid Redemption. This is a video that he did for Kung Fu Week. Now, I'd not seen this before. Of course, I'd read about it, mostly that it was non-stop action, and Dino pretty much reflected that when he talked about the video. I made some notes after looking at his review again. Great action, lots of great fighting and shooting, and I agree with that. Doesn't let up. And I wouldn't say that that's entirely true. There are some quieter dialogue scenes. He was also talking about the twist that was easy to anticipate. I'm like, well, there was a twist that was easy to anticipate, but the other one I didn't see coming. Basically, this is a movie that was directed by a guy from the UK, from Wales actually. Gareth Evans is his name. But it takes place, I think, in Hong Kong or some other Chinese city, and it involves a whole SWAT team of cops that are storming a apartment building that is lorded over by a drug baron and all of his henchmen. And they're going to try and take him down. But there's only one squadron, and there was a bit of dialogue early in the beginning where the rookie on the team, whose name is Rama, asks the captain, whose name is Jaka, I think, or Jaka, why are we doing this today? And another guy's like, well, why not? And I'm like, oh, there has to be more to it than that. And then he confers with an older cop as they're entering the building. And the older cop's like, you know what we're here to do, right? I'm just like, oh, there's something shady going on here with these guys. They've got some other ulterior motive rather than simply just catching or killing all the bad guys. Anyway, they quickly get in over their heads. The attendants of the apartment building are alerted to their presence, and they pick up arms and they start firing at them, and it becomes just a shitstorm, really. Lots and lots of machine gun fire, and guys get, like, half the SWAT team gets wiped out right away. Actually, the premise of this reminds me of the new Judge Dredd movie, which I understand is very similar. I haven't seen that either, but I've heard good things about it. But it wasn't really something I was interested in. This one I was more interested in than the Judge Judge Dredd movie with Carl Urban. So anyway, the main character, Rama, is played by a guy named Iko Uwais, and he is fantastic. He's only got a couple of credits on IMDb right now, but he is quite the fighter. Most of the characters run out of bullets pretty early on in the film, so they resort to hands, feet, knives, machetes, you know, other objects to fight with, and the guy is really, really quite a good fighter. It's quite exciting. Some of the fights go on a little bit long for my tastes, but it's all very, very well choreographed and fun. So yeah, it's an exciting movie. What else do I want to say about this? Oh yeah, this guy, Iko Uwais, the main character, he kind of reminds me of Lucas Haas. He has a strange sort of resemblance to the actor Lucas Haas. Really bizarre. So yeah, good fight choreography and really intense. Another thing that I noticed about this is that given the fact that it only takes place in one apartment building, and they spend a lot of time fighting in hallways and on the main staircase and on different rooms, I'm thinking to myself, it's quite possible that there were only just a few sets built for this film. Maybe they had a staircase in a real building that they used on one occasion, and some exteriors. But a lot of the locations for fighting, they could have just used the same sets, but simply redressed them and made them look differently. The apartment building itself is supposed to be, I don't know, about 15 stories tall, but really they didn't necessarily have to use a building that was that tall, especially for all the stunt work, you know. They had basically like 2 or 3 stories built in the main staircase. You only really see that much at a time. So they could keep using the same location for different scenes in different locations over and over again. I also noticed that even when the cops are fighting in a group of 2 or 3, Iko Uwais tends to do most of the fighting. It really focuses on him. There's a scene in which he and the older cop and another cop who you don't really know that much about, they storm into the drug manufacturing room, and Iko is fighting all these guys. Rama's fighting one guy after another, just kicking all kinds of ass, and then they leave the room, and I'm just like, I wonder what that third guy was doing all that time. He didn't look like he was fighting anybody. At least they didn't show him doing that. But it's a fun movie, very, very exciting. So, that's Dino, and am I going in the right order? Yes. James is on Tuesday. His DVD handle is DVD Collector 1974. And James is a huge Muppets fan, and so I really wanted to see his choice for documentary week, which was called Henson's Place, all about Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it anywhere. Sorry, James. I would like to see it at some point. Instead, I picked The African Queen, which is a classic Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn movie that I never saw until now. I saw this, I guess it was Monday morning, and I was expecting The African Queen to be this big sort of grand ship, you know, but it's not. It's this little tugboat with a steam-powered motor that Humphrey Bogart uses to get around Africa. He delivers mail, basically, to this mission where Katharine Hepburn works with her brother, who's the preacher. But then a bunch of soldiers come and attack. I think this takes place sometime during World War I, and the Germans come along and really make a mess of the place, and her brother dies. So Bogart says to her, hey, look, why don't you come on the boat with me and we'll both get out of here together. You know, it's not safe around here anymore. So she agrees. And he's telling her about some of the stuff that he's encountered along the way. In fact, that there's this German ship out on the lake, you know, down towards the river that's, you know, sort of a tactical advantage for the Germans. And they got this fort. And she's looking around the supplies on his boat, and he's got all this blasting gelatin. And he's just like, you know what we could do? We could sail towards that boat and kind of sneak up on it and use like a sort of a handmade torpedo to sink it. And Bogart's like, are you crazy? We're not going to do that. We're not set up for that kind of thing right here. What are we going to use for a torpedo? We've got the explosive. It's like, well, you've got these canisters of oxygen and other things. You could let out all the air, and you could load up the explosive in the empty shell casing, and then create sort of like a detonator for the tip, and then we could just ram right into the boat. It's like, ram right in this boat. Well, that's a great idea. Sure, let's go and do that. So they get in the boat and go down the river, and after a while she realizes that he wasn't serious about actually carrying out this plan of hers. And she's like, you promised me we're going to do this. And he's just like, look, lady, you got to understand, you know, we're just, you know, this is just not something that we should get involved in. We need to, and he's like, well, how else are we going to get out of here? We can't go this way, we can't go that way. The only way we can really go is down the river, and once we do, we're going to run into not only rapids and another fort and people shooting at us, but at the end of it, we're going to come across that boat, so we might as well try and take it out. So they come across some hardships. in the form of weather and other obstacles and things like that. And, since it's just the two of them alone in the boat, I figured they would fall in love eventually, but I didn't expect it to happen quite so quickly. It's about the halfway point in the film. Yeah, this is a really, really good movie. I can understand why it's a classic. And I like Bogart a lot in Casablanca. I liked him in this as well, although he's playing a very different character. In Casablanca, he's just like the smoothest of the cool cats. And in this one, he's, not nearly, so dapper, of course. Hanging out in the river all day long on a boat, he doesn't get much chance to groom himself. But yeah, very, very good movie. Really good. So thanks very much for recommending that one, James. On Mondays, we have Ian, aka FORKERBALL. And I must apologize, Ian, because I went through all the videos that we have on our channel right now. And I only spotted 4 films that you mentioned that I hadn't seen yet. One of which was Flyboys, starring James Franco, but you didn't exactly recommend that one. You did that one for Box Office Week, along with a few others. So I was like, forget that one. The others were Dracula, Prince of Darkness, starring Christopher Lee, The Cowboys, starring John Wayne, and the Thundercats animated movie. And I looked for all 3 of those movies and couldn't find them anywhere, so I apologize. I didn't get the chance to look at, any of those movies that you did. I didn't really want to do Flyboys because you didn't seem to like it that much. So I owe you a review of a movie that you'll maybe do sometime in the future. Maybe you'll review something that I haven't seen yet, and I'll take a look at that one. I'll take your recommendation on that one. But yeah, I really want to see Dracula, Prince of Darkness, because Christopher Lee is Dracula. That's awesome. And Peter Cushing is Van Helsing. And I came across a movie called Dracula AD 1972, which also has Christopher Lee playing Dracula and Peter Cushing playing Van Helsing. And I thought, whoa, this is just the same movie under a different title. Wrong. No, Christopher Lee's played Dracula in like 8 different movies. It's crazy. I was very close to renting a Frank Langella Dracula movie, but I thought Ian didn't actually review that one, so I apologize for not having a selection for you, Ian. Most of the movies you review I've already seen, sorry to say. On Sunday, we have RAYDVD, and as a lot of you probably know, we got our channel hacked in late 2011, and a bunch of our old videos got deleted. Now, I went through, of course, the videos that are on there to take a look at what Ray was recommending, but there was actually a movie from the deleted period that I've been curious about for a long time, and that is The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner. Now, when Ray described this movie, it sounded a lot like a Michael Mann film that he made for television called The Jericho Mile. It's about a guy who's in prison for many years. He committed a murder. And he spends his time out in the exercise yard running. There's a track and he runs on it. And he's very, very good. He's a fast runner. At one point, the Olympics are airing on the radio, and so he starts listening to the times that the top runners get and then going on the track in the yard and trying to beat their time in prison. I couldn't remember exactly what Ray said about that, and unfortunately I can't watch the video again because it's gone now. But it intrigued me, and so I decided to check it out. And I really liked it quite a bit. It does actually involve prison, or in this case it's more like a reformatory. Takes place in the early 60s in Britain, and the main character is played by Tom Courtenay, that's right. Tony Richardson is the director. He did Blue Sky, that Jessica Lange won Best Actress for in the 90s, and did The Border with Jack Nicholson and Tom Jones with a very, very young Albert Finney. So Tom Courtenay plays a kid named Smith, who was arrested basically for robbing a bakery and is sent to this reformatory. And the guy, the headmaster of the reformatory, Michael Redgrave, basically notices that he's a very good runner because he beats out his star runner, Philip Martin, who plays, what's his name? Shirley or something like that? Shelley? He's got like a girl's name. But he was sort of like the favorite of the reformatory headmaster. And once Michael Redgrave starts to favor Tom Courtenay, the Smith kid, Philip Martin's character is not very happy about that. But Michael Redgrave's encouraging him to play by the rules, and do well, you know, because they're going to be competing against a school of kids. They're all young kids, basically, in this reformatory. And if they win the trophy, there's a possible bright future as an athlete ahead of him once he leaves the place. So his fellow inmates in the reformatory are telling Smith, "Gee, you're the teacher's pet now," or something like that. You know, I mean, you know, you're acting. You know, we don't want you to start acting like you're better than us all of a sudden just because he likes you and thinks you're going to make a good athlete once you get out of here. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie involving his family. His father was really sick for a long time. Smith's father was sick and he dies, and then his mother gets about $500 in an insurance payment from the company he worked at. So they have a lot of extra cash and they're enjoying themselves, but Smith isn't really happy with his mother because she's already taken up with another man. And so at one point when he gets kicked out of the house and told not to come back until he gets work, that's when he goes and he robs the bakery, and then he gets caught later on. He also has a relationship with a girl during a couple of their, you know, sort of vacation periods. He's already out of school at this point. He's not going to school anymore. So his mother's not happy about the fact that he's not working yet. But basically just is sort of sick of the whole situation. And then things, you know, take a turn for the worse once he robs the joint and then goes to prison. This is a really good movie. I enjoyed it quite a lot. And I probably wouldn't have even heard of it if Ray hadn't recommended it. So thank you very much, Ray. Appreciate it. On Saturday, EJ, Puckbond 007, a guy I'm very fond of, and always has nice things to say about the videos that I put up. For Jack Nicholson week, he recommended Carnal Knowledge, which is by Mike Nichols. And EJ didn't love this movie all that much. He thought it was good, but he didn't love it. But he said one thing that really made maybe my ears perk up, and that is, if you like Closer, you'll like this movie. And I like Closer very much. It's one of my favorite movies of 2004. And this one is by the same director, and it's based on a play, just like Closer is. So I wanted to take a look at that. Jack Nicholson is the main character, and his best buddy in college is played by Art Garfunkel. EJ was talking about the fact that Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel don't make very convincing-looking college students. But for me, it was more like When Harry Met Sally, because it takes place over a very long period of time, and so they kind of age into their roles in the present, because the movie came out in the early 70s, 71, I think. So they look mature. They look like the right age at the end of the picture, but in the early part of the picture, they're not very convincing. But anyway, they're just basically looking to meet girls and meet women. It's not really focused on their studies or anything like that. The opening scene takes place at a mixer between different colleges, and that's where Art Garfunkel meets Candice Bergen's character. I hadn't seen anything that Candice Bergen did when she was really young. She's quite pretty when she was younger. Not that I think she isn't pretty, you know, when she was older doing Murphy Brown and stuff like that, but I didn't really think of her as attractive, whereas she just looks like a different person. She's so much younger. And so he has a relationship with her, and over the years they eventually get married, but what Art Garfunkel didn't realize is that Jack actually was sleeping with her for a long period of time while they were seeing each other, and that sort of thing never really comes to light. Later on, as they're older, Jack meets Anne Margaret's character, Bobby, and Puckbond had a lot of nice things to say about Anne Margaret. I look at her and I'm really reminded a lot of Christina Hendricks, not just because of her hair color either. She's quite a spectacular looking lady. And she was quite good in this movie as well. I didn't really know a lot about Anne Margaret. She just seemed like someone who was known more for her looks than anything, kind of like Marilyn Monroe, but she's actually very, very good in this film. And Art Garfunkel, I don't really know as an actor all that much. I just basically know him from his music group, Simon and Garfunkel. There was a couple of scenes that played out over very long extended shots, especially the opening scene. I think it's just like 2 shots long, the opening scene. And there's a scene later on in the bar where the 3 of them are talking, Candice and Jack and Art. But the camera stays solely focused on Candice. The 2 guys are joking around and she's just laughing hysterically at everything they're saying, and the camera doesn't cut away to a wide shot or either of the other guys. It's just her laughing and laughing uncontrollably. I'm just thinking that this is something that sort of happened spontaneously while they were shooting. And Mike Nichols, the director, is just like, forget about all the other shots, let's just stay on her, because it's so great watching her laugh so much. And I think that Woody Allen might have been influenced by that scene, because he did a film called Husbands and Wives in 1992, where he's having an affair, I think, with Juliette Lewis, and they're sitting in a taxi or something riding somewhere in New York. and they're having a conversation, but the camera just stays on Juliette Lewis. They're both talking, but you only see her. And that scene really reminded me a lot of the scene in Carnal Knowledge. Reminded me of that of Husbands and Wives. And I enjoyed that movie. It's a sad movie, though. Closer is sort of like an angry movie. You know, the characters are just kind of vicious to each other. Also sad, but angry. And Carnal Knowledge is just mostly sad. The end of it, Jack Nicholson, he's had all these women in his life. But the end of it, he just needs to pay a woman to tell him what an incredible man he is. And that's really, really sad. I noticed one shot that was very much like The Graduate, where Jack is sitting still, and there's people walking back and forth in front of him. And it reminded me a lot of a shot from The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman. So yeah, I'm glad I saw that movie. Thanks for the recommendation, EJ. And finally, we have our team captain here for the channel, Big Al 1982. And he did a movie just last theme week on Tom Hardy called Bronson, and so I decided to see that one. Bronson's a crazy movie, kind of a cross between, if you took Marv and put him in A Clockwork Orange, that would be Bronson. It's based on a true story of a guy named Michael Peterson, who got in a lot of trouble and just basically is a guy who loves to fight. Just loves to fight and loves to beat people up and things like that, and is just like a crazy wild guy. Now, Al was talking about how he thought that maybe this guy had a split personality. I didn't really see that was the case. You know, they try a lot of tactics to get him to subdue himself, but every so often he manages to break free, and because that's how he feels alive, by fighting. He manages to. He's in prison for a while for robbery, and when he beats up all kinds of people there, and so he gets sent to a mental asylum and gets drugged up and everything like that. But finally, he manages to get out and finds a trade as a professional fighter for a while. But then, of course, eventually he lands back in prison, and last I heard, he's still in prison to this day. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, he's just such a big personality, and of course, Tom Hardy is someone I didn't even know about until Inception came out. When he was in Inception, that's how I learned of his existence, of course. And he went on to play Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. But this is a crazy, crazy movie, and he's just so big, such big, you know, like Marv from Sin City. He's just like a big hulking brute of a guy that just can't contain himself, you know, and just like loves to beat people up and just fight and just assert himself aggressively and physically. It's something else. The biggest surprise, I think, for me is that something that Al didn't mention, and then this film was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who's the director of Drive. And I didn't know who that guy was before Drive. Of course, I hadn't seen Bronson up to this point, so I wasn't aware of the director. He's got a new film coming out, another one with Ryan Gosling called Only God Forgives. But I have to say I like Bronson a lot more than Drive. Yeah, but it's kind of a sad movie, but also it's just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. And it's very theatrical too. As with A Clockwork Orange, he's sort of narrating the movie, but he does so directly to camera rather than through voiceover. And there's several points in the movie in which he appears to be telling his story to an audience in a live theater. He uses makeup and everything like that. It's just stylistically, it's different. But a cool movie. I have to say that all these movies I like to one degree or another. And though I haven't really gotten to Ian yet, I plan on doing that once he reviews a movie that I haven't actually seen. He's done a couple of them, but like I said, I couldn't find them. But all these movies I like very much. Oh, and I also want to mention that I saw Jack Reacher recently, which is something that I would have talked about had I not wanted to talk about all these other guys as well. One of the better Tom Cruise movies that I've seen, and it's directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who did The Way of the Gun. So it's a good thriller. Not really an action movie. It has action scenes in it, but mostly it's just a thriller, a mystery, you know, a puzzle to be solved. And I thought it was really good. So this video was more for my compadres here on the channel than it was for everyone else. But of course, you know, I'd recommend to anyone to check these other ones out because they're quite good. Some new ones, some old ones, some different ones, stuff I hadn't seen. So thanks very much, guys, for all the videos that you've done and for all the nice things that you've said about me. And I look forward to more themes because we got a ton of them. I can't wait. Take it easy, and thanks again for watching. Bye.